Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we're going to talk about mental health, and our goal is to cut through all the noise and confusion that's out there. We're going to move away from all those common misconceptions and get to a place of real clarity and understanding. So let me just start by asking you this. Think about it for a second. Have you ever held back from sharing something you were feeling? Or maybe you've shied away from asking someone how they were really doing. That little hesitation, it's almost always rooted in these myths and the stigma they create. And that's exactly what we're going to unpack together today. So here's a quick look at our game plan. We'll start with how we view mental health in general. Then we'll dive right into 8 common myths and stack them up against the actual facts. After that, we'll get into why these myths are so damaging, look at some practical steps we can all take, and wrap up with how we can all be a part of the solution. Sound good? Let's get started. All right, let's jump right into the heart of it all, separating fiction from reality. We're going to tackle 8 of the most common, most stubborn myths about mental health, one by one. First up is the idea that mental health issues are rare, that they only affect a handful of people. This belief makes anyone who is struggling feel so incredibly alone. But the reality? Well, it couldn't be more different. I mean, just look at the scale of this. The World Health Organization tells us that 1 in 8 people across the globe is living with a mental health condition. And here in the US, it's nearly 1 in 5 adults. These aren't just numbers. They show us that this isn't some rare exception. It's a massive part of the human experience. And that really is the key, isn't it? Going through a mental health challenge isn't some strange anomaly. It's a normal part of being human, shaped by everything from our genes to the things that happen in our lives. Okay, myth number 2, and this one is so damaging. It's the belief that struggling with your mental health means you're weak or you have some kind of character flaw. The fact is, it's a health condition. It's that simple. It's not a measure of your character. Just like heart disease or diabetes, the causes are really complex. We're talking about a mix of genetics, your specific brain chemistry, and major life experiences like trauma or intense stress. I mean, you would never tell someone with asthma to just get over it, right? The exact same logic applies here. This is about biology and environment, not a lack of willpower. And this thought just completely flips the script. Reaching out and asking for help isn't giving up. It's an incredible act of courage. To acknowledge that you're dealing with a health issue and to take steps to manage it, well, that is true strength. Now for our third myth, and it's one you've probably seen played up in movies and on the news. This idea that people with mental health conditions are violent and dangerous. This stereotype causes so much fear and discrimination, but the facts, they tell a completely different story. The data on this is crystal clear. Research shows that only about 3 to 5%, a tiny fraction, of violent acts can be linked back to a serious mental illness. And get this, the truth is actually the opposite of the myth. People with these conditions are far more likely to be the victims of violence, not the ones committing it. And this is exactly why getting the facts right is so important. When we stick to the facts, we help build communities where people feel included and safe. But when we give in to fear, all it does is create more misunderstanding and push people away when they need support the most. Myth number 4 is the myth of hopelessness. This idea that getting a mental health diagnosis is like a life sentence with no chance for a good future. Honestly, this could not be further from the truth. In reality, recovery isn't just possible. It's actually pretty common. And let's be really clear about what we mean by recovery. It's not always about finding a cure. It's about learning how to manage your symptoms so you can live a full, productive life. It means being able to work, have great relationships, and be a part of your community, all with the help of tools like therapy and medication. I love this quote because it reframes the whole thing so perfectly. A diagnosis isn't the end of the road, it's the beginning. It's the starting point of a journey toward understanding yourself, managing your health, and finding wellness. All right, let's talk about myth number 5. This one is the dangerous idea that kids don't really have mental health problems, that they're just being dramatic or going through a phase. This way of thinking completely misses a crucial opportunity to provide support when it matters most. Just let this number sink in for a second. 50%. Half of all lifetime mental health conditions show their first signs by the time a person is 14 years old. Half. That is exactly why paying attention and getting help early is so important. We just can't afford to ignore what young people are going through. So what this really means is that taking a child's emotional struggles seriously is one of the best things we can do for their future. Getting them the right support early on can literally change the entire course of their life for the better. Now for the sixth myth, and it's a really unfair one. The idea that having a mental health condition is somehow tied to your intelligence. Let me be perfectly clear. This is absolutely false. The two have nothing to do with each other. Sure, a mental health condition can affect your mood or your energy, but it doesn't change your core intelligence one bit. I mean, just think about it. History is full of brilliant scientists, artists, and leaders, people like Abraham Lincoln or Winston Churchill, who dealt with these exact same challenges and still changed the world. This actually brings us to a really cool and helpful idea: neurodiversity. It's the understanding that all our brains work a little differently, and these differences aren't weaknesses. In fact, they often come with their own unique strengths and really valuable ways of seeing the world. Okay, on to myth number 7. This is the belief that when someone is struggling, you can always see it, that the signs are always big and obvious, but so often, that's just not how it works. You see, a lot of people experience something called high-functioning anxiety or depression. From the outside, they look like they've got it all together. They're crushing it at work, they have a busy social life, but on the inside, they're fighting a really tough battle, and they're often hiding their symptoms because they're afraid of being judged. This is such a powerful reminder for all of us. We can never, ever assume we know what's going on with someone just by looking at them. A simple, honest question like, "How are you really doing?" can make all the difference and open the door for someone who needs to talk. And that brings us to our 8th and final myth, the idea that therapy is some kind of last resort, only for people who are in a total crisis. The truth is, therapy is an amazing tool for pretty much anyone who wants to grow and improve their life. See, therapy isn't just for putting out fires. It's a proactive place where anyone can go to build better coping skills, work on their relationships, figure out how to handle stress, and just generally boost their well-being. You can almost think of it like going to the gym, but for your mental and emotional health. And this really nails it. The goal needs to shift from just reacting to illness to proactively building up wellness in all of us. So, we've busted all these myths. Now let's talk about why this actually matters so much. What are the real-world impacts of all this misinformation? The impact is huge, and it's very real. First off, stigma flat out stops people from getting the help they need. They're afraid of being judged, of being seen as weak, or even losing their job. This leads to them feeling isolated, and it can even lead to real discrimination in things like housing and work. And on a bigger level, all this stigma means that mental health services are often underfunded because they aren't taken as seriously as physical health. And the end result of all that? People's health gets worse. These myths cause tangible, serious harm to real people's lives. Okay, so we've laid out the problem. Now let's switch gears and talk about the solution. What can you actually do to be an ally for better mental health? So what can we do? Here are 5 things. First, when you hear these myths in conversation, gently challenge them with the facts. Second, create open and safe spaces for dialogue with your friends and family so people feel comfortable being vulnerable. Third, keep learning from good, reliable sources so you feel confident in what you know. Fourth, you can advocate for better mental health policies and support campaigns that fight stigma. And finally, and this one is so important, practice self-compassion. Treat your own mental health challenges with the same care and seriousness you'd give to anyone else. And this really brings us to our final, most important point. Fixing this isn't somebody else's job. It's a shared responsibility that we all have to one another. So let's just run through the truths one last time. Mental health challenges are common, not rare. Asking for help is a sign of strength, not weakness. Recovery is absolutely possible. The signs can be invisible, and support, like therapy, is a tool for everyone. Ultimately, it all boils down to this. The understanding we build becomes the empathy we show. And it's that empathy that truly powers the change we all want to see in the world. So I'll leave you with this one question to think about. What is one conversation about mental health, no matter how big or small, that you can start today? Maybe it's with a friend, a family member, or maybe it's just a conversation with yourself, because that's where all of this change really begins. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer.